Chapter 18. "Quick, hide 'em," Uchenna hissed. Just as she said it, though, the Jersey Devil disappeared. Elliot and Uchenna blinked. The other children were flooding down the aisle, plopping into their big green seats, chattering and shouting like any group of kids after lunch. Slowly, Uchenna reached out her hand and jerked it back. "He's still there," she whispered. Elliot reached out his hand and then recoiled in horror. "I think I just touched its eyeball," he whimpered, wiping his hands on his pants. Then there was a sound of something hitting the steel floor of the bus. Uchenna and Elliot peered into the dark space under their seat. Elliot's lunch bag appeared to be opening itself. What are you guys doing?" Elliot and Uchenna shot up. A girl with black eyeliner and black fingernails was leaning over the back of the seat in front of them. "Nothing," they both answered at once. The girl said, "That was suspicious." Elliot and Uchenna both stared at her, unspeaking. The girl shrugged. "Whatever," and then said, "I thought Mrs. Vole was going to kill you." The Elliot brightened. "It's funny how—" But the girl had already turned around and sat down. "Okay," Uchenna whispered, "don't move." Very slowly, she looked under their seat, and she sat back up. "Well?" Elliot asked, as casually as he could. His legs were trembling. "So is there another almond bar in your lunch bag?" "Yes, in fact." "Not anymore." Elliot sighed and looked under the seat. There were raisins everywhere. "That one must have been from my grandma," he said. "Yeah," agreed Uchenna. "I guess he doesn't like the raisins." "Why do you keep calling it he? Did you see its personal anatomy?" "It's what?" "You know," Elliot blushed. "It's personal anatomy." "Oh, you mean between the legs," Elliot said. "Eh, Uchenna said. Elliot blushed even harder. Uchenna didn't even seem to notice. "No, it just looked like a boy to me." The bus driver started up the motor, and his pipe clamped between his teeth. Professor Fauna was walking down the aisle, checking that all the children had fastened their seat belts. Miss Vole was sitting in the front of the bus, looking like she was trying to avoid having a nervous breakdown. The professor came even with Elliot and Uchenna's seat. He glared at them. His crazy eyebrows bristled. He sniffed. The children smiled up at him innocently. He turned around and made his way to the front of the bus. Elliot put his head in his hands. The bus turned out of the parking lot. An invisible Jersey Devil started eating Elliot's tuna fish sandwich. Chapter 19. For the rest of the bus ride, the Jersey Devil made his way through Elliot's lunch, and then moved on to Uchenna's, while the two children whispered furiously to one another what they should do. Uchenna suggested helping the creature crawl back out the window. Everyone would see him, and then he would just fall into traffic, Elliot replied. "He wouldn't fall. He can fly." "We know he can jump. Can he fly?" "Well, he has wings, so yeah, so do chickens. If you want to toss the Jersey Devil into traffic and hope he gets his wings better than the chicken, well, no." The bus rambled by the towering smokestacks of the Schmoke Brothers power plant, off the exit ramp and into the school parking lot. The brakes screamed and the big yellow bus rocked forward and then back. Miss Vole rose to her feet shakily and said, "Now, children, go back to the classroom quietly, please. There's just a half hour before dismiss." They didn't let her finish. The children burst out of their seats and they shoved past her off the bus. Miss Vole looked like she was about ready to quit. And this wasn't even the end of September. Meanwhile, Elliot and Uchenna began whispering furiously. "How do we get him off the bus? He's invincible. Just carry him." "I'm not carrying him." This was Elliot. Let's just put him in a backpack." "That's a terrible idea. Do you have a better one?" "No, but he's not going in my backpack." Uchenna glared at Elliot, and she looked under the seat. The Jersey Devil was nowhere to be seen. Elliot leaned down beside Uchenna. He held very still. At last he murmured, "Listen." They heard a quiet whistling of breath, in and out, in and out. "I think he's asleep." Uchenna took her books from her backpack, and handed them to Elliot. Then she gently Then very gently she reached out and touched the soft coat of the Jersey Devil. She found his side and slid her fingers down under it until they were under his belly. The Jersey Devil snorted. Then Uchenna lifted the little creature and lowered him into her backpack. Suddenly there he was staring at them, eyes open. Elliot and Uchenna nearly leaped out of their seat. The Jersey Devil reached out his long tongue. It was as blue as his body. Elliot recoiled in hot horror. Uchenna froze. The Jersey Devil licked Uchenna's hand. Then he curled up in the backpack, closed his eyes, and disappeared again. Uchenna was trembling, but she zipped her bag and hefted onto her shoulder. Elliot picked up his own backpack, which was now twice as heavy since it contained Uchenna's books as well. They made their way to the front of the bus. Professor Fauna was waiting. He rose up from his seat and approached. He glared down from his full, towering height, his eyes like spotlights under his mad, bushy eyebrows. The children stopped like travelers at the foot of a cliff and peered up. "Well," he intoned, in his rich bass voice, "do you children have something you want to tell me?" Elliot's hands grew damp. Professor Uchenna bit her lip like, "What?" Professor Fauna's eyebrows crawled up his forehead like two hairy caterpillars. "Oh," Uchenna said, "right. We're sorry we got lost." Fauna eyed her, not moving from the narrow bus aisle. "Yes," Elliot said, "very sorry." Still the professor did not move. His dark eyes roved over them suspiciously, and then he stepped aside. "Remember, children, secrets can be dangerous." Without missing a beat, Uchenna replied, "But danger is the greatest teacher." The professor frowned at her. His black eyes looked like pits. "Unless," he said, "it kills you." Then they walked away from the bus. Elliot leaned over to Uchenna. "He actually has a torture chamber under the school." From the side of her mouth, Uchenna muttered, "That's that's what they say. I believe it." Chapter 20. Uchenna held her backpack close to her chest for the remaining 20 minutes of the school day. When the bell rang, she and Elliot walked out the front door into the elementary school, down the steep steps and onto the street. "Is your mom picking you up or your grandma?" Uchenna asked. "Neither. They said I could walk home, even though it's my first day." "Some first day," Uchenna sighed. "Yeah, if the whole year is like this," Elliot agreed, "I don't think I'll survive." They walked side by side. Uchenna, it turned out, lived just one street away from Elliot. "How's Jersey?" Elliot asked. "Who?" "Jersey, the Jersey Devil." "Oh, that's the least creative name I've ever heard." Elliot shrugged. "Yeah, but you have to admit, he's kind of cute." "Who wants cute? Let's call him something awesome like Bone Chewer." Elliot frowned. "Blood Guzzler?" Elliot's frown deepened. "Blood-guzzler, destroyer of worlds? Absolutely not." "Bone chewer, then," Uchenna said. She began to shout, singing, bone chewer, he's from the swamp, not the sewer. Bone chewer, rawr!" Uchenna did not extend the drum solo in the air. Did an extended drum solo in the air. "You know," Elliot said, "bone chewer also rhymes with manure, and in case that helps you with the second verse." Uchenna glared at him. She zipped open her pack. The sun fell directly onto the bag. The little Jersey Devil blinked up at the children. Cautiously, Elliot reached in and touched the little creature's head. It closed its eyes. Elliot stroked its bony skull. A gurgling sound came from its throat. "He's purring," Uchenna said. Some kids were walking towards them. She zipped up the backpack and walked on. Chapter 21. Elliot and Uchenna approached the small park. A man was making balloon animals for a group of young children. He had a number of larger balloons bobbing behind his head. "I want a unicorn," one of the kids shouted. The balloon maker rubbed his unshaven chin. "Yeah, I can't make a unicorn. How about a snake? I can make snakes pretty good." "A unicorn! How about two snakes twisted together? I can do that." "A unicorn!" the child shouted. A unicorn," the man muttered. Then his eyes brightened. "What about a unicorn horn? I can make a unicorn horn." The children clapped happily. The balloon man looked very relieved. Elliot and Uchenna stopped to watch. In hushed tones, Elliot asked, "So what are we going to do with Jersey?" "Bone chewer," I said. I say we take him to the forest and let him go," Uchenna suggested. "But he doesn't live anywhere near here. You can't just let him go in some random forest." "Why not? That had been like taking you to some small town in Mongolia, dropping you off and saying, 'It looks like where you came from.' It's not called letting him go, it's called kidnapping." "Fine," Uchenna said. "Let's check on him again. We just checked on him 30 seconds ago." "Yeah, but I kind of like him." Elliot gave Uchenna a disapproving look. "We are not keeping him. That would be unethical and dangerous, not to mention a logistical nightmare." "What's logistical?" Uchenna asked absently as she unzipped her pack. The little Jersey Devil stuck its head up and out of the bag. He looked at them with one eye, and then he turned his head and looked at him with the other eye. His body tensed. "What's wrong with him?" Elliot whispered. "I don't know. Does he see something? Is he afraid?" The Jersey Devil started to growl. "Oh, no," Elliot murmured. Suddenly, Uchenna stumbled back because the Jersey Devil had leapt out of the pack and onto the sidewalk and bounded towards the man with the balloon. The sunlight was dappled by the trees of the small park, and the Jersey Devil appeared and disappeared with every patch of shade and sunlight. Elliot and Uchenna stared in horror. No one had noticed the little blue creature with red wings yet. And then the Jersey Devil leapt directly for the large pink balloon that hovered behind the man's head. The creature passed through shade and then sunlight. When the sunlight hit him, he was right next to the balloon man's face. The man screamed. The Jersey Devil crashed into the large pink balloon. It popped. The devil hit the ground and scampered away into the park. "I'm developing a theory that Jersey Devils are obsessed with balloons." Elliot stated that as the balloon man continued screaming and the little children laughed and clapped and demanded he make another disappearing deer dragon balloon, and their parents continued to check their phones. "That's an interesting theory," Uchenna replied. "I have another one. We need to catch him now." Oof, I wonder what her theory is. Any predictions? Any guesses on what her theory is? He likes balloons, but maybe something else. We'll find out tomorrow when we start reading chapter 22.